So thank you all so much for chatting with us. I'm really excited to get to speak with you about your very exciting work and the really cool things that you've been doing on the starGAZE program. So what I might do is just at the top is if I'm going to call on you and if you can describe yourself, your practice, how you got into the industry. So I'm going to start with you, Venus.
Yeah. So I am originally from Los Angeles. I moved to Ireland in 2018 to do a course in fine art in TU Dublin. So yeah, I've been here ever since. So I think almost 8 years now. And at the moment, I kind of work across film, visual arts, and theater. Um, I was always very interested in like theater and performing and film since I was a kid. And then I kind of lost that during high school, but back in college and being back here kind of reminded me and of how much I love performing and directing and yeah. So a lot of my work kind of delves into this like fantastical and strange to kind of talk about these darker topics of hate crimes and queer POC suppression and religious guilt, to kind of balance it, but also showcasing all these sort of range of emotions that there can be this trauma, but also happiness and humor and fun. It's the totality of experiences.
In back in 2018 when you came over, did you know you would live here and kind of base your practice here?
Um, no, I didn't. Um, I kind of Yeah, it was interesting. Like I just sort of I came for the course and I thought I would move somewhere else after, but I just really fell in love with Ireland and the people here. And yeah, I've just been sort of building my career ever since. And I think, yeah, I just had this connection with Ireland and I kind of have difficulty seeing myself living anywhere else.
Oh, I love this. And I also think that outsider gaze as well, coming from a place that is just so culturally different. Like,
Yeah, definitely. I think kind of getting used to the sort of humor was definitely a bit of a change for me, or like just people making fun of me. I was like, whoa.
that's affection though.
Yeah,
That's like
yeah,
that's
yeah,
when they know
exactly.
they really like you. If someone is like
Yeah,
overly polite, you'd be suspicious.
yeah. My partner is Irish. So I think when I was like first meeting their parents, it was just like I was like, oh my God, they hate me. But no, it was just they just liked me.
Oh, that's lovely. And tell me then about the growth of your practice. So you finished college and then you probably had that final, like, I mean, who comes over here to do film from LA? That's the, like, I don't want to learn more about why that way.
Yeah, well, I mean, I kind of moved far away because of family issues. Um, so yeah, but it's kind of weird, like kind of coming into film in this way that like I don't have the proper film training, but I come from this more visual art background and like performance art background. And that definitely ties in very heavily to my work and how I create films. Um, so yeah, all the films I kind of do are very um based around this character that I make. And they usually take on this role of public performance art, which I sort of started this public performance art practice from college as like a tool to kind of reclaim my power on the streets, a site where I was getting so much hate and harassment on a daily basis. So I was interested in like using these characters, which was seen in my last film, Daisy Prophet of the Apocalypse, where I played this sort of street preacher character who was proposing this new queer world. And it was like from this performance, then I build out films from and worlds from.
Like, in terms of your practice, then going from even theater to film, was that kind of like a natural sidestep, or what was the process there?
I mean, I think my interest for both was always kind of there throughout my life. Um, and yeah, so I did do a few theater shows in Dublin before I kind of moved more into film. Um, but yeah, I found that the nature of the change quite organic. And I kind of I like to think in different ways, or like what would serve the project, if it would be better as a film or better as a theater piece. But it's kind of interesting that you're talking about the codes of filmmaking versus like visual art. And it's funny because I'm like working on a feature film at the moment, and like it's my first time kind of really trying to hone in on a narrative, which is like something I've only like slightly done in previous works. And it's so hard. It's like such a different mindset to go into narrative and like trying to make sure things are narratively work.
Oh yeah, to like make it structural, but not too structural.
Exactly.
Fit,
Yeah,
fit this thing. But then it was like, but also be completely fresh and don't lose your own voice. It is
exactly.
yeah, like it is one of those things. It's almost like you learn the rules of structure only to kind of like acknowledge that they exist and then, find your own way in. Um,
Yeah.
I definitely want to delve into kind of craft then after this, but I'll move on just right now to Jack. Actually, Jack, I have all your stuff here now. Jack, tell me about what brought you into film, your practice, the types of stories you enjoy telling.
Sure thing. Yeah, you're doing two yanks in a row here. But I've no better company to be in than Venus's. So yeah, I came here in 2021, um, and which is just right after I started making short films professionally. Um, I've shot some stuff in the States, in New York. I'm from the other coast, and I've just completed my first Devil in Set music video, which is very, very exciting. Very excited to share it with the world. And I'm working on some more stuff here as well at the moment. But my work typically is pretty genre based. I have made some horror shorts, some fantasy shorts, a romantic comedy short. So I have pretty omnivorous tastes in that regard, but I like using the sort of tools of film to express the inexpressible um, within all of us. So those feelings that uh, are hard to explain with words, I like explaining with
Then
images.
what is your process then in terms of cultivating your ideas? Do they come to you as images and then you decode them? Are they, a theme that you want to address? How does each one come?
That's a great question. Um, yeah, I think they come to me as feelings more so than anything. Like my film Paper Girl, which I know was shared with you, like that came from you know walking around and just like feeling everyone's gaze on you and feeling the image of yourself in their minds and like wanting to just tear it off of you. Um, like uh like Paper. The film is about this party goer who on their way to a party that they're going to feel uncomfortable at realize that their skin is turning to paper. And so as the party reaches a crescendo, they tear it all off and kind of reveal the creature beneath. Um, yeah, and even in making that film, there were surprises about how, when you kind of put pen to paper in that way, when you turned those feelings into images, they were sometimes expressed in ways that I didn't even anticipate going into the project.
Wow. And in terms of, I think specifically genre, and I think, like the, I've seen a lot of sort of fantasy films and like in terms of genre as well and different types of genre, queer culture is very aligned with the fandom. I was wondering if like is that your experience? Do you find Like there's something about genre that does bring a sort of disproportionate amount of audience and people that really like the diehard fans that really understand it and really get it. That there's something about that.
Totally. Yeah, I think there is a real kind of communal aspect to the celebration of like tropes. Like I think, having some kind of uh, lineage that you can put your work into really really helps really helps make your work accessible to like a community and to feel a part of that community. And I've definitely experienced that. Um, like a lot of my work typically, when it'll often be playing with either other queer or trans shorts or other horror shorts. Um, there's a couple other like fantasy and rom-com festivals out there, but they are unfortunately a little bit harder to find. But the horror festivals are a lot of fun and are very great. And that kind of feeling of being in a room with people, whether it be for these genre festivals or these queer festivals, and being like, oh, these images on the screen, they're ours. They don't belong to the people out of this room. They belong to us. That's a very cool that's a very cool thing to be a part of.
You have been cultivating shorts, but also working on longer form. Um, can you tell me a little bit about almost your development from, like that time when you moved over to,
Mhm.
what you're working on in the slate?
Absolutely. Yeah, well, right now I'm working on a feature script about um an androgynous film archivist who comes over to Dublin and becomes kind of besotted with this mysterious vampire who they recognize from like an old film clip they've been restoring, which is completely fictional and not at all derived from my own personal life or experience. So yeah, that's the one of the feature scripts I'm working on right now.
That's a
It's
brilliant
called.
concept. That's
Oh,
really,
thank you.
yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad you like it. Yeah, our apartment is actually right next to the um, Irish Film Institute and the Irish Film Archive. And I've, one of the great privileges of being here is they'll screen for free like the archive at lunchtime, where they'll just like go into the vaults and pull like the weirdest, strangest material, and put it on like the biggest screen. So like you'll see like a travelogue from like the 50s. There was one recently I watched, which was it was like a informational film of I believe some Inuits like building an igloo, but then it had been translated into the Irish language, um, and I think in the 50s, and that was very cool and like you're watching something made in a different time, completely untranslated, and it really feels like you're kind of sinking into another world, which is what I'm. That's I guess the feeling that I'm trying to capture in this
Uh,
next longer thing.
And tell me then about your thought processes in terms of, like how did that concept come to you? Like, I mean, obviously that inspiration is there, but then in terms of, like building it out into that real meaty feature length story, where like do you sit down and write at a specific time every day? Do you like to like have a different phases of the writing stage? How do you work with that?
I wish I had it all figured out. I remember actually when I was first over here, because when I first came in 2021, it was still in the middle of the height of COVID, and so I was here when museums were first opening up. But so many of the museums are so like tourist based in the city center, and so again, most people were not doing tourism yet. So I was kind of like walking by walking by myself through all of these uh, museums. And I remember I think it was at the James Joyce Center, but they had recreated a room that like a hotel room that Joyce would have been writing Ulysses in. And I love that book. And I read that book when I first came here. And I love the idea that, I think there's there's a real, um, I don't know, everyone wants their, nice mahogany desk in front of a window where like 3 hours a day they write their great work. But what was so inspiring about seeing this little room is that it was like Joyce was like writing everywhere and anywhere he could because he was, super poor and kind of crazy and doing whatever he had to do to like put creative work out into the world. And I think that feeling kind of undergirds this script, this idea, this story. Um, and and it is also something that I definitely empathize with at this time in my creative journey.
And it's I kind of I skipped ahead to the process with you, and I want to go back into your journey a little bit as well. So making films, kind of like across the pond and here, did you find a substantial difference when you started to, practice here as well, or is it the same?
It's a good question. I think it's mostly the same, or at least the way I've done it is the same, which is just I like to work with my friends, and yeah, just getting a bunch of cool people together and turning a camera on. It's true here. It's true. I've shot in different places in the States as well, and as far as I can tell, it's the same everywhere. I hope.
Fabulous. Okay, great. And now, Stephen, thought you'd escaped there for a while, but you're back in. Okay, tell me about yourself, how you got into the industry, and a little bit about your work that you've done so far.
Yeah, my name's Stephen T. Lally, and I'm a writer, director, and concept artist from Dublin. And the work that I create now is very kind of genre based as well. I really love fantasy and whimsy, always underscored by kind of meaning. I like to have heart in all the projects that I do. But yeah, all my narrative work has been under the fantasy umbrella because I love it as a kind of a Trojan horse to kind of sneak in deeper meaning or personal meaning. And I guess, gosh, I kind of feel like I've looped back to film in a way. I kind of initially I God I initially was studying English at Trinity, and then I just didn't like the fact that it was so focused on criticism. And I was like, I needed to be creative. So then I ended up studying like media arts at TU Dublin. And then my kind of graduate film did really well. So I went to London and I lived there for quite a bit of time. And I kind of started as a runner and just gradually built up my show reel. I got more and more into kind of the commercial side of things. Um, and I think I almost convinced myself that that was what I really loved doing, but I just ended up getting tremendously depressed and thinking, okay, I need to, what is my heart telling me to do? And it was film. So I kind of, in, I think about 2020, I decided, nobody's going to come to me with, an amazing script. I haven't done any narrative in so long. I'm going to focus on my own. So I kind of ended up um, self-funding a short film called Empress Cold Cream. And that was like, yeah, that was, gosh, I remember the time was nerve-wracking getting my little baby out there, but it did really well. And I kind of, since then, I've done a couple more shorts and
And just to take you back to that, the polish in that is crazy in terms of what you've managed to do. And I want to go back to that as well, like the premise. Tell like you'll be able to do it better than I will, but tell us the premise of it and the description of it.
well, I'm a crafty queen, so I do like to go all in with every kind of facet of art direction, costuming, because I worked as a stylist for a bit when I was a runner. So Empress Costume, the short is very similar to the feature that I've just written, but it's about a kind of a teenage girl. She's a little bit of a wallflower, and she's been in love with her best friend for years and years. And they've always, both of them were kind of obsessed with a very niche 1980s cartoon series called Princess Starshimmer and the Joy Crusaders, which was like the only female focused thing that they had to grab onto because it's a period film and set in the 90s.
And
And
it's such a fun like just to kind of go in and nerd out a bit as well, like how you've implemented all those technical elements, the animation and the realization of that character before I do the spoiler and things like that. I'm definitely going to ask you about that when you're finished this.
well, yeah, I guess that's the kind of crux of the film is that yeah, the main character Roshin wants to tell her best friend that she loves her, and she to do that she makes a kind of makeshift shrine to the villainess of this cartoon TV series, who is this ultra camp, ultra eccentric, agent of chaos called Empress Starscream, who comes to this world and kind of, sets the plot in motion. She's the inciting incident, I suppose. But she comes over and she's like I guess Mary Poppins on acid, I suppose. She wants to try and help this young girl, get the courage to tell her best friend that she loves her. So it was my it was my way of doing like a rom-com. And I wanted to kind of yeah, I kind of wanted it as an homage to all the things that I loved growing up and also my life when I was, very young, I just would go to these god awful conventions all around Ireland. So setting it at a sci-fi convention just felt like paying homage to my past. And yeah, and then obviously I have a crazy obsession with, fierce females and fantasy. So I kind of also wanted to, create one of my own. I wanted to create a queer icon of my own in Empress Costume. So I hope I did.
I know, and you even kind of like you nailed the hierarchy of nerds and nerddom and fandom in the sphere of that, where you're like, oh no, this is the main one, and like
Yeah.
it's just very very funny and very very sweet, but just so good technically as well. How long did that take? Tell me, like, just tell me
Uh,
about putting that together for the shoot and doing all that in post.
I mean, we had a tiny budget, and I know there's such a kind of a truism, I think, in film, either you have loads of money or loads of time. And we had loads of time because we shot I was kind of preparing all during COVID, really. And I luckily, Papa Lally is a my dad is like this amazing kind of graphic designer. So we had to, oh my God, I won't even go into all the ins and outs, but I was terrified of being sued. So we created about 80 fake um, logos for all of these different sci-fi things because I didn't want, Star Wars coming at me.
Yeah,
So we
Disney are quite protective.
very protected. So I was like, everything in the film was like a faux version. But then I think half the fun of it was starting from the ground up and creating this very kind of 80s ridiculous kind of cartoon and all the merchandise and the action figures. It was that yeah, it was a real joy. It was a real joy. And for me it just I love the artifice of film, so I love how everything kind of comes together to create like perfect image. Um but yeah, we had no money, but we had time and I had a great like team around me who helped do things on on nothing. But yeah.
And what was it like then sharing it with the audience if you've been kind of sitting on it for that long and probably, working on everyone else's projects for such a long time and then, like then to come out with something so strong?
It was really, I have to be honest, it was really nerve-wracking because it was very personal to me. I think film should be, you always find the personal makes things universal. So the film was, I know it's crazy and camp and it is a, kind of a silly rom-com, but it was so personal to me and personal to the things that I loved because I wanted to pay, homage to these things that I care about deeply. So it was nerve-wracking, but it was great to see it do really well in festivals and every time I did go to any kind of in-person screening, people were like, "Oh, when's the feature?" Or when's the merch? Because I think people kind of want both. And I was like, get me Mattel on the line. Like I want the range of action figures now. But
I
that
mean,
kind of
you should write the series of it.
well, we've just done the feature.
Yeah,
So
yeah, no, but like the series of the cartoon.
that's the dream. I think I did talk to my co-writer, so we've just we got selected for perspectives this year and we fleshed it out into a big feature and made it even more Irish. We said in the Gaeltacht, lots of it is in the Irish language. But yeah, we kind of discussed that with our script editor. I was like, yeah, I can see. I want the spin-off. I want the cartoon. I want the toys. I want everything. Like, maybe there's a guilt in saying you want IP, but I'm like, no, I made IP. I want this IP to go somewhere. Like, I really miss having. what I missed growing up was I didn't see kind of these fantasy films with an Irish voice. I just never did. So I kind of think for me, that's a huge, big, central kind of core message. I always kept going back when I was writing the script, thinking, this is the film I wish I had seen when I was like 14, 15. And it just wasn't there. Like certainly not with an Irish voice or with a queer perspective. So that's been the engine for the project. But yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
and I think it's just to go back to the that discussion of fandom earlier, where like one of the things that I have found is, like in a world where there's no rules, right? That things aren't necessarily super duper fair, and you're quite outside looking in at like very specific things happening and other people sort of existing in that space. The thing about fandom is like you get to disappear into those worlds. So I used to love Star Trek Deep Space Nine, like obsessively, and just watch it like over and over and over again on videos, like a lunatic in a basement dweller, totally. And one day, Colin Meaney came to my checkout, and I lost my shit. Like, just lost it when I was working in a supermarket. I was like,
It's Miles.
no, just completely shut down, like face bright red, like trying to put things into a bag. Because you're just like, I think those worlds are so precious, but yeah, the lack of representation in them.
Yeah.
And and I think one of those things is when you see a character that's doing something different, and I think one of the first times I'd seen it was Girls. And I'm giving examples because I want everyone else to give examples of their ones. But I remember the first time it's Girls, and it's all these like lunatic, messy millennial bitches. And I was like, oh my God, I've never seen that. And I know that so well, And I think
Yeah.
it's when you see it, you realize it hasn't been there the whole time. But like in some ways you didn't know. You've been kind of, consuming it in that way.
I think it's true. I think that so much of fantasy, again, it has to be queer coded. I feel like even, even Deep Space Nine, I think there was elements of like trans characters and like Dax, but I think they could kind of sneak it in because it was under the Trojan horse of sci-fi. And I feel that, what I'm hopeful for, I think um with kind of queer cinema moving forward is that we will be able to kind of reclaim some of that space or do it, not have to always kind of live vicariously through other kind of straight characters, I think, or I think that's my hope. And I think things are changing. I really do. I think the fact that um I don't know, like even just on an Empress co-stream level, the fact that we got development funding through Screen Ireland to write the feature, it did make me really think, because I was initially thinking, oh gosh, is it a bit too wild for them? It's not a traditional comedy, but I really feel like things are progressing. I hope.
Buffy was my Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah, I had that as well. I'm devastated to lose the pilot.
I know, I know.
And what was it about Buffy that drew you in?
That's a great question. I mean, I think it sort of connects what I was saying earlier about like expressing the inexpressible, like especially when you're a teen and you're like, man, my problems feel so bad, and there's no way for me to tell an adult about it without them being like, Sonny Jim, you don't have to worry about having a job. Um, and you know, when every episode the world is literally at stake. I think that definitely connects to the teenage emotional mindset.
Brilliant. And Venus, did you have any ones that you loved growing up that you identified with?
What came to mind was Twilight.
Oh, so good.
Oh yeah, yeah. Mormon.
Yeah.
And we were so that.
Yeah.
I didn't even twig that. And then when the final one came out and it was like, oh,
I mean, you watch that first Twilight movie and like no, like it's just so cool that like the major Hollywood tentpole looked that weird and interesting. I think Twilight's
Mm.
great, Venus.
and then in terms of, you know, projects and artists that exist at the moment maybe influencing your own craft, is there anything that you've seen out there recently? And I'll kind of let everyone jump in. do you know, like the things that we were talking about we didn't know were missing, or like that really, really distinct voice.
So many exciting trans voices in film right now. So many which I've been exposed to through the film festival scene here in Dublin. We've got the second edition of the Trans Image Trans Experience Film Festival coming up later this month, which I'm really excited about. The latest castration movie is screening there, which for the uninitiated is this sprawling shot on video DIY trans epic that the director Louise Ward has been putting together for the past few years and has built up this massive following online. It's very exciting, both on a artistic level and a both in terms of like what Louise is capturing, the kinds of stories she's telling, but then also just how she's able to do it, which is like totally community based, totally DIY, crowdfunded, and really, really exciting. So I love that. I love The People's Joker, directed by Vera Drew, which I saw first at Gaze, I think a couple years ago.
Yeah, we
Um,
spoke we spoke with her as well. She's amazing, and it's such
oh my
a.
God, Vera's the
Uh,
best.
I'm just like, if anyone's listening, go listen to it and go watch the film.
Absolutely. Do. And then yeah, TV Glow, Jane Schoenbrunn, also amazing. So excited for Camp Miasma,
And then
Jane's
actually,
follow-up.
while I have you, and then I'm going to pick on everyone else, um, just chatting there, do you, is there any sort of trope that irritates you, especially because of your horror leanings? Is there anything right now that is like, it is and as someone who makes art in that craft in terms of horror, that, you just think needs to be buried forever?
Good question. I'm pretty omnivorous with my tastes. There's very little that I'm grumpy about for better or for worse. But the more practical it is, I think that the better. Like I do turn my nose up at digital blood splatter. Um, yeah, I think the more you can kind of feel it with your hands, the scarier and more effective it is.
Fabulous. And Venus as well. Those films that now the groundbreaking pieces of work, or something that doesn't even have to be in your genre, but like something that you were really kind of drawn to and inspired by.
Um, yeah, there was a film that jumped out to me. Um, it's called Fuck Toys by Annapurna
So
Sriram.
good.
That
So
was
good.
in Red Umbrella Festival here a few months ago. Oh my goodness, so beautiful, so amazing. Great to see a woman of color director, also South Asian, um, and also like, into budget and just like what is possible to make on smaller budgets. And she was also an lead actress, director, which is inspiring for me because that's how I'm going forward with my next film as well. Um, and also just so fun, like using this like fantasy genre through like tarot cards and telling this whole epic through this form was just so beautiful and inspiring
It's a
Fabulous.
really awesome
and
movie.
funny.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, go seek it out if you're able to.
Oh, amazing. And Stephen.
I think there's two main people I think at the minute. One is Julio Torres. He's like this amazing kind of queer and non-binary creative who get their work is just sensational. He has a he has a really kind of crazy grasp of whimsy, which I really like. And also just like production design, it's very self-reflexive. It kind of has a fairy tale aspect. And then the other person is somebody that I was partnered with this year through Screen Ireland as my mentor, which is Lucille Hadzi Halilovic, who is, I mean, we kind of throw around the word like iconic or visionary, but this woman is just incredible. Her work is, again, there's a lot of kind of dark fantasy. It seems to be a kind of her jumping off point. And her latest film was called The Ice Tower, and with Marion Cotillard, and it's just like a really beautiful like take on almost kind of all about Eve, because it's about like this young girl who kind of becomes obsessed with this French actress who's portraying the Ice Queen in this film studio in the 1970s. So it's just phenomenal. But the visuals, again, it's all kind of practical filmmaking. It's amazing. But yeah, that kind of took my breath away. And to be able to kind of, ask Lucille for advice, or feedback on scripts and stuff is just wild because she is like at the top. She's beyond the top of her game. So I think, yeah, I can't speak highly enough of her.
Oh, sounds amazing. You've done two things there that are great. I'm going to ask about one now, and then we've kind of brought us back to starGAZE. So then my next questions will be about this. But one of the things that you mentioned earlier that I thought was very interesting was how um you were, your work always has that element of, oh, what was the word you used? Kind of inspiration behind it, like heartfelt, like warm. And would you say that's sort of your like voice and you as a human being in your craft?
I I think so. I think it's kind of just been solidified more and more as I've kind of written more of my own work. I think again it is this kind of mantra of like, from the personal comes the universal. So I always feel even if I'm telling a story that is, great, has flights of fantasy, uh, suspension of disbelief, it still has to have meaning and heart. Like my last short film is so maximalist. It's, set, on the eve of the millennium, and it's about a closeted Y2K pop star who there's an evil record label and a maniacal boy band, and they're trying to turn her into this kind of Britney-esque um puppet. But so it's wild and it's crazy and it's camp and it's a musical. So there's three kind of Y2K pop bangers in it. But it's also always fundamentally the jumping off point was, what's the meaning behind it? And for me, it was just somebody who can't be themselves, who can't be unapologetically queer. So I think all of my projects start from some start from a place of true meaning, because then I feel people will go along with it. People can go along with the crazy and the whimsy so long as you have a core message that is, clear and also really personal. But I've tried to kind of, I do that in all of my work. I think it's important. And I think also because I think maybe there's I don't know, of a stereotype, but sometimes people think of fantasy and maybe think of it as kind of weightless or thoughtless. And I'm like, no, no, the best fantasy comes from a real place. I mean, my favorite film of all time is Labyrinth. And again, it's a crazy film. It's very queer coded, but it comes from a real place of, this a teenage girl finding herself, finding her sexuality and finding her agency. So I feel, I don't know, for me, yeah, I don't know, I've gone on a bit of a rant now about
No, no,
like
no.
obviously shouldn't have meaning, but I think sometimes people, I don't think they look down at you, but I think I have got it sometimes where people are like, oh, you want to do fantasy? I'm like, yes, because it's a way of getting bigger messages, within it that, you know, have a lot of meaning.
Yeah, I'd like that deep space line. That's about the, aftermath of war and, that the repercussions that happen. They all have those deeper meanings, no matter how zany they're. And the best ones are just so true that even if people don't know the history, they're just like, this is just such deep drama. But more so, I think the thing that I was sort of asking is like, are are you as a person a hopeful person? Do you want the best and tend to see the best in people?
I think that's what I definitely try to do. Like one of my big heroes is Jim Henson, and I think his worldview, and you can see from all the work that he did was so positive, and I think it's important to be that way. Like I've just got back from a director's residency in the Netherlands, and it was all about developing a new short film, and the short film I'm developing is another wild fantasy, but again, it's coming from but I'll just give a tiny little thing about it. It's about like this a celestial bureaucrat who's working for death, and his job is to shepherd the souls over. And then a little girl dies and leaves him with her imaginary friend, and the imaginary friend teaches him about how to be empathetic towards the souls that are going to kind of give them these fantastic send-offs. And I think that for me is, I don't know, the world is in such a horrendous place right now. And I feel like positivity and empathy seem to be sorely on the decline. So it sounds kind of cheesy and maybe overly earnest, but I think in all of my work, I do try and have a positive um message.
Yeah.
I think it's really important. I think yeah, I don't know. It's very cheesy, but
No,
I
no,
think
it isn't. But no, like, and the reason I say that is because I could feel that kind of like joy and love in it, and I sort of think like as artists in anything we do, no matter how skilled you are, and you're just like making a YouTube video on your phone, you kind of you put a bit of your own self into it, and that's sort of like I was just really really interested, and I might open that up, Jack, and I was like, is your voice maybe a bit more angry and observant?
Oh, there's a lot of hope in there
Is
too.
there? Yeah, that you go for the best, but
No, but well, it is,
there's edge to it.
it's interesting, and just connecting back to Paper Girl, and this might be overly specific if you haven't seen the short. So if you want to see it, just ask and I'll send it to you. But the ending of that movie, when Paper Girl kind of takes their skin off and reveals the monster underneath, it was originally written to be like a kind of unambiguously triumphant moment. Um, and that triumph is still in there, but there is a little sadness because when Paper Girl tears their skin off and becomes the monster, everyone runs away and screams, and they get to dance, but they have to dance on their own, and that sort of slight shift in tone. Sorry to spoil this 5-minute short film,
But it's
but
worth the
that.
journey. It's such a strong.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, I think that shift in tone kind of took me by surprise. So definitely there's hope in there, but for sure some rage as well.
Yeah, but it's funny. That's the thing that I got, where it's just like, and I think the way she dances at the end, there's such a defiance to it. Like, I'm going to be here.
Yeah.
Fuck it. Like, that's the thing that like pushes her out, and there's power in that as well, where it's just all coming from a slightly different place. And Venus, I want to dig more into you as well. What's your sort of voice in a way?
Yeah, I would definitely say there's a lot of hope in there and rage. But I think like a lot of my work sort of points to this need for community and collective change and the need for structural change in like how we think about society as a whole. Um, but that there is hope at the end of the tunnel that we can change, things can change.
Being on starGAZE and like Venus, while I'm chatting with you, tell me about your mentor. What was the process like, and what did you sort of glean as an artist coming out the other end?
Stargaze has been really great. Like just being in the festival last year and all the workshops that we had with other filmmakers um, was really, really helpful to get a sense of like what the industry is like internationally and in Ireland. Um, and yeah, so my mentor is Prano Bailey Bond, who wrote and directed this movie called Censor um, a few years ago, and it's kind of like going between these different genres, drama and horror. Um, but yeah, so we're still working together. But it's been really helpful to have her input as I'm writing a script for this new film called Roxy.io, which is a sci-fi fairy tale musical.
Give me the premise. This
Yes.
whole call of premises have just been spectacular. I'll still be thinking about them in days to come.
Yeah. So the film follows a chatbot that falls in love with a human and tries to become human. Oh, sorry. A chatbot that falls in love with a prince and tries to become human with the help of a goddess and a talking woodlouse.
So like a Little Mermaid type thing.
Yes. Yeah. Drawing on lots of different, older Disney princess movies, and the sort of fairy tale lexicon, but also having this sort of sci-fi element to it. And of course, musical numbers set on Dublin city streets.
Oh, I love this. Yes.
So yeah, it's been great to work with Prano on the script because again, this is kind of my first time really trying to hone in on a narrative and this sort of structure and playing with structure, um, and failing structure and like what that looks like. Um, so yeah, we've had a few sessions so far and they've been super, super helpful. Just to kind of understanding this more of the film language.
Amazing, amazing. And Stephen,
Yeah, so gosh, the stargaze experience was amazing. I found it quite emotional, I think, going into it because I think I'm definitely I'm kind of like an introverted extrovert, so I kind of feel quite anxious in group settings, and I can, take a while to kind of, you know, warm up. But it was super, welcoming, really, really positive. And it definitely gave me, I guess, more confidence to be bolder in my work, and a little bit less rigid, I would say, because I think yeah, especially in terms of, I'm so detail oriented and visual oriented, and I start everything by drawing that it has kind of, yeah, it's definitely encouraged me to be a little wilder. And my mentor is Jim Archer, who is just he's wonderful. Um, he directed all three series of Big Boys, so he has a amazing comedy director and such a amazing propensity for pathos, which I really like and which I want to bring more and more into my work. And then his feature was Brian and Charles, which is a kind of like a sci-fi about this really lonely inventor who invents this robot, and they have a really touching relationship. So again, it's wild and it's super silly, but it's about loneliness, and I really like that. So I kind of we definitely bonded over that. And yeah, it's just been great to chat to him more, especially as I've been doing the feature of Empress Coldstream and also my working on my next short, Ernest, just to bounce ideas off and kind of learn from somebody who has like Lucille has such a defined vision. Um, yeah, and their advice has been brilliant. I think he did say the best advice to me, which was always remember that um a camel is a horse drawn by committee. So I was just like, it is. So he was like, just try and remain focused on the story that you want to tell and the vision that you want to impart at all points, because you will always have a lot of people telling you what you should or shouldn't do and trying to fence you in almost. So he was just like, remember to kind of maintain that voice. So it's been great.
oh, that's a really, really, really good point. And Jack?
Yeah, Stargaze was wonderful. First and foremost, because I got to hang out with Venus and Steven so much, as well as the rest of our great, great cohort, Lewis, Eleanor, Billy. It was very affirming to be in such a talented group of queer filmmakers. So that was a thrilling experience getting to speak to all the filmmakers at the festival. It was fascinating, really educational. Um, again, I got exposed to so many great movies through Gaze, and getting to then like peek behind the curtain and see the people who made them was thrilling, especially because it's a really broad array of people. We spoke to animators, we spoke to fiction filmmakers, we spoke to documentarians, a real wide breadth. And then my mentorship experience has been incredible as well. My mentor is Damien McCarthy, who's the guy who directed uh, Caveat and Oddity, which are two amazing.
And Hokum is out soon.
Yes, I
So,
was I was building up to Hokum. Yeah, it just premiered at South by, and people seem to be loving it. I have not seen it yet. I'm so excited. So so thrilled. I'm also like, I called it because like he's just this amazing filmmaker who really started out like super DIY. Like if you watch Caveat, that's a movie made for very little money that is just built of these really powerful, horrifying images. And it's just so cool to see how he was able to build that success into Oddity, which is another great film, and then build the success of Oddity into Hokum. And can't wait to see what he does next. But he's been really instructive in terms of like um, building something on the DIY level that is, that is compelling because of the scariness of its images, and I'm trying to lean into my personal scariness, and he's been very helpful for that.
And his films as well, there's something in them that, like, even though they're dark and they're terrifying and you've all these, very eerie ghouls, there it isn't like heavy. They're
Totally.
just
And they're such human stories, and really, really compelling pieces of writing as well, sort of undergirding the images. It's kind of the secret sauce. But yeah, he's been really great to learn from.
amazing. Well, I can't wait to see everyone's projects. Like I'm actually very, very excited. Please come back and chat with us when they're all made. Um, and congratulations. And it sounds like it was a really wonderful year.
Thank you so much. This has been wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.